When you're in a high-stakes deal, you know the line between a good outcome and a bad one is razor thin. So today, we're cracking open the playbook of a master, Roger Dawson, to give you a serious tactical edge. Welcome to your power negotiating masterclass.
Right off the bat, this quote from Kissinger completely flips the script. See, most people think negotiation is about finding some sort of middle ground. It's not. It's about defining the battlefield from the very first move. Overstating your demands isn't about being greedy. It's pure strategy. Let me ask you something. What's the biggest mistake people make in a negotiation? It's trying to be fair. That one single instinct, that desire to seem reasonable, is probably costing you a fortune. We're about to show you exactly how to stop leaving all that money on the table. So here's our game plan for the next few minutes. We're going to move through 5 core pillars. Each one builds on the last, and by the end, you'll have a totally new framework for how you negotiate. Let's get started.
Okay, first things first, we have to rewire the way you think about this whole process. There's one fundamental psychological truth that separates the amateurs from the absolute masters.
And here it is. This is the absolute core of power negotiating. Your goal isn't just to win, it's to make the other side feel like they won. Now, why is that so important? Because a victory they feel they earned is a victory they will champion and defend for you later. It builds the relationship instead of breaking it.
So forget everything you've ever heard about the classic win-win scenario. In the real world of high-stakes deals, there's a winner, and then there's someone who thinks they're a winner. Your job is to be the first one and skillfully create the second.
And here's a classic example of how to do that. Never, ever be the one to suggest splitting the difference. That's a total rookie move. Instead, you let them suggest it. Because when they do, you can treat their suggestion as a brand new offer, a new starting point. You make them feel like they've won a huge concession, when really, you just reset the entire board in your favor.
All right, so now that we've got the psychology down, let's move into pillar 2. This is all about how you take control of the negotiation from the very first move you make.
Your opening move should always be what's called your maximum plausible position, or MPP. This isn't just some crazy highball offer you pull out of thin air. It's the absolute most you can ask for while still keeping a straight face. This move is crucial because it immediately anchors the entire negotiation around your number and gives you a ton of room to make concessions later on.
Just think of your MPP as the very top of a mountain. By starting there, you create this long path down for the other person, and every single step down you reluctantly take feels like a huge victory for them, even if your final destination was exactly where you planned to land all along.
Okay, so you've made your opening offer. Now it's their turn. And the second they state their position, your first reaction is what's called the flinch. This is a powerful, totally nonverbal move that immediately starts to reset their expectations.
You know, it's funny, most people believe what they see way more than what they hear, and flinching taps right into that. You physically react with shock or surprise to their offer, a gasp, a sudden lean back. It makes them question their own position before you've even had to say a single word. It's incredibly effective.
So we've opened strong. Now let's talk about the mid-game. This is where you start to apply precise, tactical pressure to get concessions without really giving up anything of value yourself.
This right here, this phrase is arguably the single most profitable sentence in all of negotiation. You need to learn it, you need to get comfortable using it, and then, this is the most important part, you have to remain silent.
This is called the vice technique. After they make an offer, you just deliver that simple line, and then you shut up. The silence creates this vacuum, this uncomfortable pressure that they will feel an overwhelming need to fill. And how do they usually fill it? By improving their own offer. You've just gained ground without making a counteroffer.
Now you've definitely seen this next one. A buyer will try to toss their problem to you, like a hot potato, hoping you'll be the one to solve it for them. The classic example is, "Oh, we'd love to, but we just don't have it in the budget." Your job is to toss that hot potato right back where it came from. If they say, "It's not in the budget," you don't immediately offer a discount. No way. You ask, "I understand. For something this important, who does have the authority to approve a budget change?" You make their problem again. All right, moving on to pillar 4. This is where we get into the more structural gambits, the moves you make behind the scenes to create leverage before you even sit down at the table. Here's a huge one. Never, ever walk into a negotiation as the final decision maker.
always defer to a higher authority, a committee, a partner, a board. It creates this incredibly powerful buffer. It lets you absorb pressure, gather more information, and say no without actually being the bad guy.
And when they try to use it on you, you have to smoke it out early. Ask them directly. So just so I'm clear, if this proposal meets all of your needs, is there any reason at all you wouldn't be able to give me a decision today? That question pins them down and forces them to admit if they actually have the power to close the deal. The classic good guy/bad guy routine. It's the oldest trick in the book for a reason. One person is impossible, the other is your friend, trying to get you to just concede a little to help them out. It's all psychological, but your defense against it is surprisingly simple and totally devastating.
All you have to do is call it out. Just smile and say something like, "Come on, you guys aren't doing the whole good guy/bad guy thing with me, are you?" It completely shatters the illusion. It shows them you know the game, and it forces them to drop the act and start negotiating for real.
Okay, we're at our final pillar. Once you have all these tactics, the last piece of the puzzle is knowing who you're dealing with across the table, so you can tailor your approach for maximum impact. At the end of the day, you're not negotiating with a spreadsheet or a company, you're negotiating with a person. And figuring out their basic personality type is like getting a copy of their playbook. You can't treat a pragmatic street fighter who just wants to win the same way you treat an amiable pacifier who just wants everyone to agree. You have to speak their language. When you adapt your tactics to the player, you control the entire game. So you have the framework now, you have the tools to control basically any negotiation. So that question on the screen isn't just for show. Think about it, your next big meeting, your next high-stakes call. Who is your opponent really? And what's your opening gambit going to be? Because from this moment on, you're no longer just a participant in the negotiation. You're the one dictating the terms.